have-
I'm on just a basic account now, so this will end in 40 minutes, or we can restart it.
Well, I'm not sure we'll need that whole
Right.
length of time. So I'm hoping we can just sort of debrief a little bit from the last two select board meetings. And I will talk about the few phone calls I had with a couple board members and the town manager. And then we can cover anything else that you folks think we should cover. So I guess I'll start with just saying I followed up with the board chair and basically asked, what are the expectations for the committee from here on out? Basically, I told him I'm not sure we could be of value to the board and wanted to get the sense of what the board needed from the committee. And for Joel, he wanted to get the feasibility study from Tidewater, and he wanted the committee to make sure that the feasibility study was correct. And he wanted it broken into segments to make sure we all agree where the underserved was and the unserved. Frankly, I told him I think that all that information needs to come from Tidewater, and the committee has vetted all that stuff already. Let's see, he said the board discussion to, he anticipates the board to have a discussion of what to request from the county, but would take input from the committee on what we should be asking from the county. He did suggest that we pursue monies from the fund balance. The fund balance is sort of the town's money that has rolled over from year to year, where there was money left in the balance at the end of the year. All the funds weren't spent. And that implied doing it through the budget process. He indicated that it was so rushed last time, wants to ask for more time. With more time and blending phases 1 and 2, he suggested we would have more success. He also wanted information about the other round of engineering that Tidewater was going to do between the approval of the opera money to the when the request was due, the grant application was due. And he wanted that actually finished beforehand. I'm not quite sure if Tidewater would think that's practical. Again, most of that stuff was Tidewater related, and really I didn't see the committee having much influence in that. Karen explained that she thought Tidewater was not giving us a great deal. Tidewater was wanted free money above what was reasonable. Again, she repeated her fact that she was happy with her speed, which wasn't fiber. She phases 1 and 2 should not have should not have wires running past houses which wouldn't be connected. I guess there was she's quite concerned when Alan said that they will be running wires for phase 2 as they're doing phase 1, but won't be connecting places along the way. Felt we were being taken advantage by greedy Tidewater. If money's available from state or federal, she suggested that the committee pose us for good positioning for requesting those funds. And Tidewater needs to get to be more competitive. Again, there were a lot of things that I thought were more suited for discussion with Tidewater than involving the committee on. And then the town manager, and each of them said the board isn't saying no to funding broadband. It's just that the timing wasn't right and they want to, at least that part of the board needs more time and wants to look towards the next round. Sarah also said get involved in the budget process, request money from the funds balance. She was curious of knowing if it's going to still cost 60 or more or less. So she thought that the committee could have value by determining and what that amount should be and making that request. She also wondered if we should be looking for private funds as well to supplement anything or to include in the future requests. And yeah, so and she and I agreed that we will be reaching out to Tidewater to meet with them so that a lot of the questions that she had and that other board members had could be addressed, as Karen requested, directly from a decision maker, not through Alan, the salesperson. So that's what I found out in the meantime. I was looking forward to hearing from Connect Maine, but hopefully we can reconnect with them. And it's unfortunate. I hope Nick is okay and that his medical emergency was taken care of. But certainly hearing from them and maybe getting a sense of when their next round is may help us for planning purposes and defining how we think we could be of value. And I guess I would open that up to hearing your suggestions on that as well. But that's what I have to report that I've learned since the last meeting. And I will try to round that out by talking to the two other board members who I haven't had a chance yet to reach. So, your thoughts?
That was a lot.
comments,
That was a
concerns?
lot of comments. Oh,
It all seemed to be more related to Tidewater than the committee, though.
what role did these three people, did they consider the committee to still be needed?
They didn't expressly say that, but all I got was little snippets like make a proposal in the budget process, confirm that Tidewater's feasibility study was credible. I think that they're the experts on that, or they hired the expert for that. So, and it was consistent with what we did. So, yeah, there wasn't much except for, coming back with another request. I guess that's my takeaway from it, of how we could be of value.
I know you guys have got good thoughts too. I would encourage the committee to continue to to envision a role for the future. However extensive or modest that is, it's certainly up to you folks. But I think if a committee steps away from this, you're kind of losing some public education, some advocacy role, things like that. You've built a relationship with LCI. Again, it can be improved, it can be improved. And at some point the town leaders need to, be there in the forefront around negotiation, on a specific thing. But boy, when I hear that a committee has gone away, I sort of feel bad for the select people because they're left without the knowledge that you folks bring in. And then the public is left without the advocacy and storytelling that you guys have brought. So that's enough for Mary Ellen, but I do hope that you'll envision a future role.
I do wonder how it would look in a future grant application if there was some indication that the committee dissolved and then came back or didn't come back, and then the board was making it directly. I don't know if they're taking that into consideration of, is this community vested or not? But that certainly would go along with what Mary Ellen suggests, is that it makes sense to keep a committee going in that case, and finding our value somewhere.
Yeah, David, I'm glad you mentioned that these things, many of the concerns from the select board were related to the to Tidewater's side. I think that this is just the major challenge your committee faced in the timing of things, because I do think that the role of the committee in negotiating, and maybe you can't use that word because you're not, formally negotiating, but in being the ones to bring Tidewater, to meet you at a certain place that has been revealed through your survey process and community priorities and the issues around affordability. I think that a benefit of your situation with this pushback from the select board and not making it in this round of funding is that I think there's more publicity drawn to this situation now. I didn't necessarily want to mean to send those emails from the state out of context, but the point being, like, this is actually a good thing. The state is paying attention, and the PR at this point is, it's the stakes are high for Tidewater, certainly for your community. We know that for the 100 unserved members and those who want the future proof, beyond that, but the stakes are quite high for Tidewater in this situation. And I think, I'll be honest, like my monthly bill of $85 a month for 50 over 10, that's not an affordable broadband rate. That's not what people, what the competition is necessarily offering. It's not super far off, but I think that this committee still has the ability to say, well, hey, we can get our town to commit match funding, and but we need XYZ, to be the ones to say, like, these are things revealed, and get the select board to see what things you already have the plan to keep the select board looped in. But I just remember you guys coming up with a really, like, a good list of points to negotiate with Tidewater, and I might have missed it. I know I dropped off for a little bit, but I want to maybe find out from Evan, like, how many of those made it in front of Randall Manning, for instance, because in Bremen's case, it was this list of points, like, these are the things you need to address, Tidewater, before we, make you look good, which is essentially what Bremen's only leverage was. Now, I have come to recognize what a big challenge Bremen's not putting in match funding, because the situation was different 3 years ago, but what a big challenge that has posed, not only for Tidewater, we knew it would make it hard for them to get other towns to contribute match funding, but more so what a challenge it's made for even the state. And, it's situations where the math just doesn't work out without, those public-private partnerships through the form of kind of funding from different sources. And we're, anyway, kind of working on the Bremen thing on the one side. I know that the state is trying to figure out how to really explain what happened with Somerville and Jefferson. Those were very unique federal funding opportunities. So there's a bit of education that needs to happen. I think that's a really great role for the committee. But then I think that great list that you made of, like, these are the things we want to, and Tim, you contributed a lot to that list around, negotiating with Tidewater. They just, apparently, if all went through, Alan should hopefully have the big Connect Main application behind him. I think they ended up going in with Appleton, who had match funding, gave their ARPA funds. So anyway, now I'm hoping that means that Tidewater, including the management, is at the table and ready to really negotiate with Newcastle and potentially any other communities in the county where there can be, if there's more communities saying the same thing, drop the required landline, for instance. Maybe you have some leverage and power at this point.
I'm glad you brought up affordability, because Karen did say one thing the committee could do is define what is affordability, because, you know, and I guess that is I suggested that you just find some metric that says for the person above the poverty line, this is an average cost that seems to work. But, you know, maybe that's something we could do with more research, is to define what that is and then pursue it, figure out how we could create a structure where Tidewater would provide that service at that affordable price. So, so that was something that concrete that was mentioned that we could do, and I agree with that. That's, we could certainly help with that.
Krista, those are all good items. I'm not sure how many of those, given the time we had, made it to Alan. But if we could just go back to, again, after watching, excuse me, those two board meetings, from the committee standpoint, or at least from my standpoint, before any committee goes forward, there has to be some, I don't know, more discussion with the select board, more commitment. I mean, I sense that broadband was not high on their list. I didn't see any support from anybody, obviously, other than you, Dave, from that group. And my question is, if that same lack of support continues, and funding from the town, from wherever is required, then what do we just have to face into that? I don't know, because I didn't see any support at all. Zero, negative. I mean, they came up with every reason they could not to give us $60,000, and I really think the $25,000 was a slap in the face. It just, yeah, it was. I thought it did nothing for me. But that's what I want to see before we do any of this other stuff. Do we, do they think it's important for the town in Newcastle? Because my impression right now is they don't.
Well, I've heard the town manager and 2 select board members say it is.
Would it be,
We
yeah.
do need a select board discussion on the relevancy and the importance of the committee. And so what I could commit to doing is asking the chair to put it on a future select board agenda, and then it can be discussed.
I think that's a good idea at a minimum.
At a minimum, okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
You're
no, others can chime in, but if I saw something that others didn't see, let me know. But
Well, I'll say from their perspective, it's not unlike the response of other other select boards that aren't necessarily not supportive of broadband, but I don't think that that they were necessarily. Yeah, I think they missed a lot throughout your process of the groundwork that you had done. I'm wondering if you all think it would be helpful to have, I know that you can't have all the select board, anyway, to have the chair, Joel, or attend a meeting with, or meet, be involved in the meeting when Nick and or Peggy or both address the committee, because one thing, or hear from you, because what I can say Nick would have said today was, we're going to have funding in the summer and it's still going to require a match, and it's not necessarily going to be through Connect Maine. They're still figuring out the details, but it'll be, similar enough process, and what can you do between now and June, if that's likely. So I feel like it would be good to be able to hear it from the horse's mouth for the select board to know, but to know that, there's still an expectation of a local match, and that you have the opportunity. I think being able to hear from Peggy, who's very aware of LCI's shortcomings, Tidewater, and yet despite that, knows that LCI compared to alternatives is a community player, is, showing up and being held accountable to the strings attached to, state grant monies. And that, I think they could have some perspective on maybe the opportunity that's ahead of Newcastle right now, the silver lining of not getting in for the round that, the deadline yesterday, could be a better deal in the end for Newcastle. And wondering if it would be helpful I think that this committee could get that message, but would there be some way of capturing that to be able to hand it directly to the select board to make sure that everybody's just on the same page?
We can have 2 select board members on the call without violating the open meetings rule. I did invite Joel to attend this meeting, assuming that Nick would be here. He had conflicts in the afternoon. He couldn't. I then invited Karen, and she is flying out to a son's wedding, so she was unable to make it. And the town manager, who I invited, is homesick today, so she couldn't participate. So it just seems like a whole bunch of unfortunately, it's not a great day for it, but it ended up that Nick's not here anyways, so
Yep.
I guess
Yeah.
that's fine. As soon as we know if they could attend the next meeting, which I presume will be back on our regular schedule being next Monday, I will invite the chair and invite the town manager. The town manager did want to explicitly ask for this meeting here to be recorded, and wondered if she could see the prior meetings. So I believe that they're all on YouTube. So hopefully she will have the opportunity to go back and review those. But yes, that's a great idea to involve as many as we can in that
Yeah.
process. But unfortunately, it's only 2 select
Right,
board
right.
members. Yeah.
I think it's a great
Maybe-
idea. Yeah.
Maybe shifting the timing I know that, in the case of maybe even just a little later would work better for the work day for Joel, for instance. But
Right.
And I think if you have Nick and Peggy coming in, at least 2 people, 2 of your leaders will get some bigger context of things. You guys have not been operating in vacuum on your own. You've been trying to pay attention to what's been going on as things have been changing. So I do think if the selectmen are aware of what things you're paying attention to, and some of the other issues that Nick and Peggy see statewide, I think that'd be a great opportunity. Sorry, Mel.
As just a civilian sitting in on this thing on occasion, one of the questions I have going forward is, David, are you going to be able to both run for office and have an active role in this particular game? And do we have enough members of the community involved? It's gotten lean.
So answer the first question is, I never really thought about that till somebody asked me that just a day or 2 ago, and geez, I didn't know. And maybe I was just assuming once I'm off the board, I'm off the committee, but that person pointed out that I was on the committee before the board. I'm like, oh man, no escape route. So if somebody does not step up, which I hope somebody would after June when I'm off the board, I would certainly continue on and chair this group until we get something done. And I could serve that, but I'll be keeping my eye out for somebody who maybe have a little bit more time than me. But
And the second question, has anybody considered attempting to work the finances of fiber to all homes sort of backwards from Tidewater's position of wanting to basically get out of the copper business and go fiber for all of their telephone and or data connections. And what is going to be the price that they have to charge at that point in order to deliver the service, maintain the service? What kind of price point are they going to have, and how do they get there from where they are now? And that we don't have a good idea about what their internal economics are and whether or not this is even, the goal of getting out of copper is even going to be feasible, because they got to have lifeline kinds of service in the new environment. That's not easy, especially given the fact that you're not going to have charge for running nodal electronics at end user points in any outage situation more than a day or two, unlike what you have with the current technology. And it's going to be expensive to cure that particular issue. Or maybe they're just going to ignore it and say, hey, that's the way modern life is. But that's not answering the need, and it's going to be, I think, a howl if the industry seriously moves in the direction of not providing genuine lifeline wired service.
I think the easiest answer is I don't believe anybody has done that. I hope Tidewater has done that, but
One would hope, and one might be able to corner them.
Alan did reference last fall when I was speaking to him that they were undergoing, I think they had the help of consultants to undergo a major pricing
Right.
and business analysis. They were doing some business planning. I think it's hard to really get at that information. I think others in the industry would say that overall maintaining the amount of fiber in the future that they currently have in copper will cost less because of the higher maintenance needs of copper, or the ability, the over time, just that it degrades in a way that the fiber itself doesn't. But I think, and so that's been just at least the sales pitch to communities where I've sat in on meetings with LCI has been, in the long run, we won't have to raise prices because this is going to cost us less than it has cost to maintain the copper.
But getting a handle on that, and especially in the context of a build out where the capital for them has to come first. And then it's a question of what's the cost of money. We don't know what Tidewater's true financial situation is. And I think it will not be easy to get, but I think
it'll be impossible now. They're not going to provide that information.
not unless they are really threatened. No.
Well, I'm not sure what leverage we have, though. What leverage do we have?
Well, a
Not
whole
doing it?
community walking away, or actually two in the core. That's
Well, yeah,
not-
but we have to have some leverage. We already did walk away, right? I mean, we did. And where are we going to go? Spectrum's not interested. We don't want to go down that path.
no.
So I understand your point. But I don't know that we have,
I don't know.
the leverage we might need to get them to get what we want. But anyways,
I
back
have
to your
some,
question about, go ahead, Carol.
I have some accountability questions I would like somebody to confirm or explain further. Number one is, it was my understanding at the meeting that Sarah did not feel like she had been informed. My calculation is that she had been receiving emails, copies of invitations to these meetings from Evan since September. Never once responded to any of them. That's my number one accountability, to clarify that, why she would say that when she'd been copied on all of them.
Why
Number
don't we take them one
two-
at a time, Carol? Why don't we take them one at a time? And we can all have input on I think it's a good question. I think
Well,
it's a real good.
I need to just kind of get this off my chest.
Okay, but I'll forget
Moment.
about what you're saying. Okay, so Sarah's the first one. Go ahead.
Number two is, as you know, I was highly, highly offended by Tor Glendining's comment. And I would like to know where that poison came from. That was toxic. Where did that mindset come from? And for them to discount us as a committee and the work that we've done was really, I don't even know how to explain it. I was highly insulted. They totally disregarded David's ability to be the chair, to be one of them. I was mortified. And the third thing is, what did they think that meeting was on February 8th at the joint meeting that we had? David did a presentation, Evan did a presentation, Alan did a presentation. They had all of the information in a packet, explained everything. And then they acted like they didn't have enough time. We gave them information as we had it. We didn't have it sooner. They were copied on everything. And so it was like micromanaging and totally disregarding all of the time that was spent. And Joel said they turned themselves inside out when COVID hit. They worked really hard, so they're giving bonuses to their staff because they work so hard. They have no idea what we've been doing, nor have they asked. They also had all kinds of time in between the meeting on February 8th to ask all kinds of questions. And they insulted Alan Hinsey, who is highly regarded, has a great reputation. And yes, maybe they have some shortcomings, but they are not a large national company. So maybe they don't have the education. The way we were treated was insulting, degrading, and I think we need to come to the bottom of where that toxic mindset is coming from. And then they came up with $30,000 for a navigator program for the ARPA funds, and they had no presentation, nothing. And David asked the question, how many people are from Newcastle? And they didn't have an answer. That's my points for the moment. I can't say the word broadband in my house anymore. It's not allowed.
So under your first one, Sarah was copied to every email that you guys received up until like the last couple weeks, since it's just been Newcastle on top of it.
Right.
And then all of the meetings are on the Damerscotta's YouTube, and I've got them in a playlist, so they're in chronological order. Yeah, on to your next one. I can't remember.
Tor's comment.
No, that's just
And I have nothing for that either.
Yeah.
that's it.
It was surprising, and I half expected an apology at the following board meeting, but it
Never came.
never came.
Well, my take is that, back to my earlier comments, we gave them an excuse of not having enough time, not having enough information, being rushed, and they used it. It's a hard one to defend. And I will say, David, I don't think we as a committee, I mean all of us, I don't think we did a good enough, an adequate job of keeping them informed. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I can take it, but I don't think we kept them. This thing went on for 2 years, and I think there should have been monthly. You guys meet every 2 weeks, right? On a pretty regular basis. I think we as a committee should have forced ourselves on them. Sarah being new, you gave her that excuse too. She got a lot going on, probably doesn't know half of what is going on. And she had another select board member leading the crew, leading the charge. So she relied on David to, you to do that. I think we should have forced them all to come and discuss, or we should have gone to the select board and at their meetings, or David, you should have, every month, every quarter, should told them, here's what we did. Here's what we didn't do. Here's some of the issues we're having. Here's our next steps. And, I think at that point, maybe we could have sensed that there just wasn't the support, or they felt we were going too far with Tidewater. And then they should be negotiating. Because I think we would have, I don't think we read the board, the people that had to make the decision well enough before we got blasted. We got, so.
I
So we
agree.
have to think
And
about-
hindsight is right. They should have been more informed.
We should have
I
dragged
took
them
it-
in.
I took it more as, we were delegated a responsibility. We did our research, we made a recommendation. A lot of boards and committees where I've served, that's how it worked. And I guess I made a wrong assumption that that's how it would work.
When the board was formed, who was on the select board, Dave? Sarah wasn't there, obviously. Anybody
Sarah
else?
was not there and Karen was not there, but Tor.
Oh, the other guys were.
Rob,
Oh,
And Tor, Rob, and Joel were all on
were there?
Brian Foote was there when we first created the committee, and he had to step down.
Wow.
Right,
Uh,
right.
The other thing I
But
would just,
they-
sorry, go Carol.
Well, they showed up at the first meeting and usually didn't say anything. Joel had a few things to say. Brian had a few things, and then that was the end of them. And David must have given information as we had it. We didn't have anything to share with them. So when you start and think that we didn't finish our due diligence of which provider to use until January, actually probably the middle of January, then we had the opening for the Connect Main, which came around January, 2nd or something like that, or
Well-
January 1st. We had a very short window. We knew that. Krista and Mary Ellen, you both said this is a big reach. That came out of your mouths. This is a big reach. But we had everything lined up. So we thought we had that meeting for them on the February 6th. And so I personally feel we gave them information as we had it. We really had nothing more to give them. Now, maybe we could have told them that we were talking to Axiom. Maybe we could have told them whatever. Now, if
No,
I
we
was
should have. We should, but no, we
if
should
I
have,
was a
Carol.
town manager though, and I knew I had a broadband committee, me being who I am, I would have checked it out and said, who is this broadband committee? What do they do? She got copies of emails. So how would we know that she did not read them? Or get them? I don't know where they went, but she also did not do a good job, or they didn't, I don't know who's responsible, not attacking. But when we had that meeting, I had to check with them twice to make sure they got that announcement on the town website. Damerscott they had the full report on the website. You could go in and read the full report, and you had access to YouTube. Newcastle did not do that. So,
But we needed them more than they needed us at the end.
right, I
so-
mean, we did not understand. I agree with you, Tim. We didn't understand. I certainly didn't understand how much they minimized our abilities and all the work that we did.
Yeah,
Um,
But if we were communicating with them regularly, we might have sensed that beforehand. That's all. Because it was
Maybe.
evident. Yeah, it was just not there. It just.
and yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with Rob, who feels that Tidewater, that we're helping support Tidewater? I don't know what you do with that kind of thinking. I don't know what kind of education changes that.
I don't know.
Possibly it is where kind of realizing how in the spotlight they are now could, and in terms of the state program, could be beneficial, because I think they would have the opportunity to see, assuming that LCI gets a grant in this round with Appleton. I mean, there's precedent There already was, precedent for the 14 Connect Maine grants that LCI has gotten, all with, and that was before Bremen. Those were all with match funds. Yeah, so anyway, I think potentially figuring out a way to just really leverage this opportunity strategically, and maybe having the help of our friends at Connect Maine in figuring out where the pressure points is, because I think it is a pressure both for the town and also on the internet service provider. Like, there's an opportunity in both directions.
Would
A political
you
question.
invite them to a select board meeting where we have broadband on the agenda? So they're speaking directly to all the select board members, or should we just invite them to a committee meeting with one other select board member on here?
Who we inviting, Dave? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the Peggy from Connect Maine.
Oh, the Connect Maine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right off
You
my
know,
head, I think that's a
but-
great idea. Again, the
You-
more
you-
that they hear, I think it's the better. Because I know, Mary Ellen, you told the town that, that the town commitment or funding was required. Dave, you mentioned it a couple times, but by that time, they had too many other reasons to say no. That it just didn't, right? It didn't matter. I mean, they were so far gone that it didn't help. But I think the more that they hear, is better for us and for them. But
Yeah,
again, before all that happens, I do think there has to be a come to Jesus with the select board and the committee, however we do it. I mean, do they want this committee to do anything for broadband at this point? And then to Mal's point, which we didn't discuss, is, if the answer is no, well, that's easy. If the answer is yes, okay, Tom's out. We know that. Tom did a lot of work. So the list is pretty narrow at the point, pretty short.
Well,
So,
by the looks of it, looks like we have 3 on the committee right now.
Yeah. yeah, and if I didn't hear a strong support from the board, we all got to ask ourselves, why are we doing it? I mean, frankly.
Yeah, Mal?
Do we have any announced candidates for the open selectman seat?
Oh, I thought you were putting your papers in.
I
I have not heard of anyone picking up papers or returning them, but I haven't checked recently either. So I know Mr. Merle is pursuing other offices. So I don't know who else may be interested.
Well, timing seemed to be a big issue with them. They felt like they were rushed. We were rushed. We all stood on our heads, for weeks over the holidays and everything else to work on this. So I don't think they really understood the investment of time, and they didn't seem to regard us as a legitimate, that we had done our due diligence, that we'd vetted, as David said, and David, you even said, I'm not trying to cram it down somebody's throat, but they had time to come back and ask questions. And did they? I'm not aware that they came. I mean, you had to solicit them, David. As far as I know, you had to go to them and talk to them. If I were on the select board and this was something that I knew was coming before me that I needed to look at, I would be asking all of those questions. Instead, they chose to do it in a public forum. And one of my thoughts was, why not sit down with them in a meeting? It's pretty challenging to sit in a public forum that's going to be recorded and watched on YouTube. And are all the select board issues discussed that way?
Yeah.
Or, do you sit
State
down
law
and have a
says if there's more than 2 of us together, it's a meeting, and
Okay.
we have to give public notice. and
Mhm.
allow public input.
So the
into-
committee could not meet with the select board privately?
No,
That's correct, right?
But you could meet with two of them.
yes.
Okay.
Ma-
I'd recommend that you go with that, partly to get this come to Jesus moment, which may mean different things to different people, but to have that done. And then maybe you would feel comfortable to get some direction as to, kind of public meeting you'd have. But, Nick and Peggy are going to be able to share with you things going on all over the state. And I think just help you guys and also face this issue here. Again, I don't really know, to the point about, let's say, tours, statements, that's, I really would love to have somebody give him a call and talk with him about that, because maybe he's not aware of the impact of that, but that's one issue here. But again, it can go a long way to, for not only you folks around the screen, but anyone else that we bring on as a committee member.
Hey, Mary, I'm sorry, Mary, you made a good point, but are you suggesting that the committee have a meeting with two of the select boards?
Yeah,
members?
and
Okay.
yes, and get that done. And
I
bring
agree.
in-
That-
yeah. And can I just say something? It's kind of boring, but I do a lot of grant writing, and no, it's very thrilling. It's very thrilling, right? And so you guys were in a time crunch, and we won't go over that again. But I've never seen a more meaningful grant application like this Connect Me one that didn't get into the hands of the town manager and the select board earlier. We work on community development block grants. They all get managed through the town, and there's a hearing here, hearing there. So we did, I know that there's ownership, things like that. And maybe Chris has a different experience in different towns, but you want the yes, because we didn't get the yes. We want this to be positively accepted by your leadership, and we didn't have the time to do the right handoff. I think, as Tim mentioned, communication would be handy. The recommendation that we're going this way and not with Axiom, that needed to get done. Well, now we have a time frame.
Survey results
Yeah,
could have been
Chris-
communicated.
Yeah, Chris is challenging us to use these pressure points and move forward here.
Well, and
So
I
any-
think, I would have been very accepting if the select board said, we just don't have enough time, we need more information, but to be attacked and minimized for the work that we
Oh my
did,
Yeah,
that to me is unacceptable. And I'm really disappointed in that. If they had just said, they acknowledged they had a lot of community support, but they did not acknowledge the committee for the value that we have and what we
Right,
have
right.
done for the town and for the residents to try to get this through. And even Karen Paz was saying, she thought we had a lot of seasonal properties out here. She has 4 seasonal properties right near her house, but she doesn't see it that way because she's in the mills. She's not on a side road. And in regards to the cost, we pay $95 a month for 3/1 and a phone line. So
Yep.
I'd much rather pay
Yep.
for the fiber, and even if a phone line is involved, which we won't get rid of our phone line for medical reasons, but so the disrespect is frustrating. And if Rob had so many questions about Tidewater, why didn't that come up beforehand? Those questions could have been asked
Mhm.
of David. They could have been a phone call to Alan, and we know Alan's busy, and we are seeing that this is a symptom of what's going to happen going forward, which
Mhm,
is what
mhm.
we were trying to impress them with or share with them. But they felt like they were rushed. Sorry, I just hit the wrong button here.
Well, and I would add is that I was relying a little bit on precedent when we were pursuing a grant for the planning part of it. I asked for permission to pursue that and write it, and they granted it. They didn't ask to review it, see it,
Right.
or anything. And then when we were pursuing the grant for the feasibility study, the
Right.
same thing.
Yeah.
So it
Right.
conveyed to me a message of, you guys are handling this
Right.
for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I was at that meeting. I was at the meeting. It was Sarah's first meeting. And then we were fortunate that Ben Fry also spoke in favor of us going forward with that, which was helpful. So, and not to attack or anything else, we do have to, look at this and go forward. But I think that if Connect Maine or Nick or anybody speaks, I think they all need to hear it. because one or two of them might get an opinion, like any of us. If I heard something from Nick or Peggy, but three other people on the committee didn't hear it, how are they going to know and have an ability to form their own opinion or ask those questions? So,
I am a little reluctant, though, to invite them to a select board meeting if it's not going to be effective or the
Oh.
best use of their
Of the-
time. And if it's
right.
more stuff that benefits the committee than the board
Mhm.
itself.
Well,
Something we need to explore, certainly, but I would hope now we can sort of shift it to what are the next steps? What do we
Mhm.
do next? Because I think we have all said what we found problematic about this to date. But looking forward, what do we do? And one thing I'll do is to get it on the select board agenda to determine whether or not they still want a committee, what's the value in that committee from the rest of the board members' point of view. I also could try to arrange scheduling where we can set up 2 Zoom meetings for 2 of the other board members. I wouldn't participate because that would make 3, and then do another one for the remaining 2, so that you would have your private moment to talk about whatever you'd want. I would certainly commit to trying to organize that. And then other than that, I need your ideas of whether or not we get involved in the next budgetary process, whether or not we bring a petition for funding. I am concerned if the next Connect Maine grant comes before the annual meeting, because if we're getting close to the annual meeting and need to call a special meeting to get funds to do that grant, we may be in the same time crunch again. So it will be important to know when that next round will be, but that's a problem that I foresee if it's before June 14.
I think before we do anything, Dave, we go back to your first 2 points.
Okay,
We got to get a commitment from them, and whether it's publicly during one of your meetings or privately with us, whatever committee members are left, and a couple of select board members. I guess we'll get the opinion of 2, but that will leave us with 2 others that we don't know, but maybe.
no,
There's
but
another
you
way to
could
get
have
it.
2 Zoom meetings, 2 with 2 of the
Oh,
board.
2 and 2.
members, and then-
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't
Yeah.
figure how that worked. Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
okay. I got you.
All right.
I had one question about the possible, I mean, the select board could meet via Zoom as long as it were announced in advance. Would there be a willingness to have the select board and a special meeting of the select board and broadband committee will take place on Zoom in 2 weeks hence? Like, if that's announced, members, that means that anybody could show up. I don't know if the select board is comfortable with like meeting exclusively on Zoom versus the way that they currently do their regular select board meetings. But that does seem like a way. Zoom, if facilitated well, and this is where I would encourage you to actually get a volunteer, kind of maybe an outside volunteer to facilitate the conversation. Somebody just have some ideas of people who do this kind of thing. But just so that a conversation could happen between the select, the 2 committees essentially. Anyway, and people could be zooming in and listening, but it would be ordered so that the real voices you'd be hearing from would be the 2 committees. So it seems like one way to do a public meeting. Not that many people would, I doubt members of the public would show up. It's just not really, a few would. But something to consider there. And then just the thing on Peggy and Nick and attending a select board meeting, I'd love to check in with both of them about that, because to your point, David, about not wanting to waste their time, I think they would, especially if Peggy can see this as an opportunity to have a conversation that's representative of a much bigger situation the state is facing right now, which is how to kind of help educate and move over this hurdle of what is everyone's role in solving this broadband problem in the state, with Newcastle as a case study, I think could be of value to their time. So, and right, for them to come in person to a select board meeting at some point, but those are my two suggestions. And I'm happy to take that second point and feel it out and get back to you.
I think that will be important because I see, at least in one select board member, a philosophical stance that we shouldn't be funding a private business for something that actually they admitted that they're going to do anyways over time, but there. So it would probably take some good suggestions or explanations to get that philosophy changed. And maybe Peggy can do that, but yeah, I could see that.
I agree.
Any other ideas, thoughts, or suggestions of steps forward? Wishes? All right, well, I think I will start by asking the board chair for agenda spot in an upcoming meeting, and also ask about the possibility of a special meeting by Zoom, and also about semi-private committee meetings with 2 and 2 and without me present, because that would make an open meeting, an official meeting, and see what responses I get.
If I have the math right, I think, Krista, you were proposing that, can we have set up a special workshop so that all the selectmen attend? I hate to have David out of the conversation, but
Right.
so that's a possibility, David, isn't it? That we, rather than the 2 and 2 that you that we ask
You know
about.
what? And you said the magic word, if we call it a
Workshop.
workshop, maybe it's gonna be better. You know, it's still an open meeting, but it's,
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
it's
And you-
less formal.
This could, and I don't want to muddy it all together, this could, but if you're well organized with kind of what happened, what was the consequence, how can we repair it as one part of the agenda, and, you know, to really having the opportunity for Carol's points to be addressed as kind of part. I think that a carrot to attend such a workshop could be one in the same meeting in which the director of Connect Maine Authority
That's right.
addresses the select board questions on what is the responsibility of public funding in a private enterprise, you know, just I think that if that would make it feel maybe to the select board, some select board members, as a more valid, you know, reason for a workshop than just
I
we
like
need
that.
an apology, which is, yes, I think the first probably piece of the workshop that needs to be addressed in whatever way. I think if it's addressed in a what happened, you know, what were some of the impacts and how can we repair them moving forward. I can see it all being part of the same conversation,
Mhm,
well
mhm,
facilitated.
I think that's a good idea. So what you're saying is Peggy and Nick wouldn't have to attend a select board meeting, but they could be involved with the Zoom meetings. Because they're really the ones that will help answer the questions that they did
Mhm.
not feel that we gave them enough information, enough time. And so I think it's educating, you know, and some of the questions that they're asking is all questions that we might have asked a year and a half ago, but we felt like our presentation to them was valid enough and not being micromanaged. So I think that's a great idea. So if we did it on Zoom and it was Peggy and Nick, and then they would be answering those questions that they might have and have just a better understanding.
Krista, you suggested that you thought it should be facilitated. Do you have folks in mind who would play that role well?
I'm always happy to volunteer my colleagues when it comes to, we have this whole team that just does community municipal leadership support. And, you know, it could be someone who just has, the colleague of mine who facilitates the monthly Main Islands Coalition meetings, for example, is just someone who knows how to ensure different voices are heard. Another option, I don't remember, Mary Ellen, who it was in the Lincoln County Regional Planning Office or at the county office that facilitated those stakeholder meetings during the ARPA stakeholder meetings, but whoever that was a great facilitator. So maybe drawing from either, Mary Ellen and I can touch base, but drawing from either the county, people within the county or at Island Institute, this would be a good opportunity.
I have to say this is why I'm kind of sad, but so Sandy moved on to a new position.
Okay.
So anyway, we're trying to fill his shoes, which will take us a little while, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And she was good at that stuff.
Oh, she was, yeah.
I
yes.
gave her a personal side badge about herding cats.
Good.
So
Oh,
if
I-
I could
I-
just have
Oh,
a
go
different
ahead, Tim.
thought here. I'm just not sure if we're still getting at, does the select board want the committee? Because if we have, just a second, Krista, if we have these outside people in there at this same one Zoom call, I guess, workshop, whatever we're calling it, how do we get to the issues that Carol brought up? How do we, in mine, asking, is there a commitment, select board? Do you want a committee? And what do you want the committee to do? And are you supportive of broadband in Newcastle? Those types of things. I don't think that's a good thing to have a discussion in front of the Connect Maine folks. I think educating the select board on Connect Maine is an excellent idea, but I'm not sure it fits well with a discussion of all these other items. I think there's some dirty laundry that that may have to be washed before we. It can be simultaneous, but I don't see it at the same meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Quietly on the side.
What do you mean,
Just
Mel?
Make sure it happens.
The dirty laundry handling. The cast of characters on both sides of this aren't going to change in any significant way, and doing a dissing in public is not going to get us what we want.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying it should be private. I said,
okay.
yeah, just the opposite of what you said. I think it should be a private discussion between
Who has
the
that?
committee and the select board, like Dave suggested originally, 2-on-2, if that's what has to be. As and I'm speaking for myself, if I'm going to continue to work on the committee, I want to hear that somebody wants me to do it. And after those 2 meetings, the only one who said it, Tor said, is there still going to be a committee? Like he was like, oh my God, what have we done? That's the only person that even after what he said about, the committee, he mentioned that during, I don't know if it was the first meeting or the second meeting. I don't remember.
It's the second.
Yeah. So Carol, if we're going to continue to work as a committee, at least I want to hear from them. They want us. And if they don't, I'm good.
Yeah, if they don't value the work, then it's, yeah, I have other things to do.
Yeah, we do.
I just-
And so, and I don't want to, Mary Ellen and Christy making a great point. They don't have a clue about Connect Maine. They don't understand it. And no, they haven't wanted to do it, or they haven't, they got other things to worry about, I guess, too. And we haven't brought them to that information. I think that's an important thing. But before that's done, I want to hear that they want a committee. And Dave, that could be private with you and them, or it could be public with us, the committee and them. I don't care how you do it. I want to hear that they want us to do something.
I just noticed the time and I do have to jump, but I would just caution against asking them, do you still want a committee before kind of being able to demonstrate maybe the value of a committee. I think that is the value proposition, I think, does come when the state is showing Newcastle that, is bringing in that outside perspective of you are a case in study of like what it's going to take to get Maine's broadband problem solved. And the committee, Nick and Peggy would be 100%, or Peggy and Andrew Butcher, whoever we need to be the big shots in this meeting could be the ones validating the existence of a committee. I think you need to come back to your select board and ensure that they're going to be supportive of the work moving forward. This reminds me of a moment the Bremen Committee had in which we ended up having to write a letter to our select board expressing our some harm that was done and expressing the fact that we felt our process had been undermined by the select board. And we put that in a letter and we used the term undermine. We said, we read in the paper that the select board made a decision regarding broadband without consulting the committee. And this is undermining the entire, appointment that you put forward of appointing a committee. And we did that in the form of a letter. And that felt, at least in our situation, like the right way to do it. So that's potentially.
That's fine. No, so you've just got it going the other way, Connect Maine. But I don't think it should be combined. If we want to bring the Connect Maine into a formal select board meeting,
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. But before I'm going to do any more work, I want to hear from the board. They want us to do the work. How's that? I don't know how else to say it, but that's how I feel.
And I don't think any of us want to diss the select board. I mean, it's
No.
just, I was
No, no.
flabbergasted with the amount of, I just felt disrespected, and I felt not valued for what we had done. And I didn't understand why it had not been expressed before that meeting. They had plenty of time to do that. So.
All I will leave it at is stay tuned. I will talk with the chair about a select board meeting, a regular one, and then also a special workshop one that can be, and then also the third option of just the two sessions with two different members and see what we can bring together after that. Okay. And I want it to happen sooner than later because we can't fester not knowing. And I'm going to try to focus on the end goal, obviously, is to have broadband here. And but it would be helpful to have a clear statement of what they see the value in having a committee going forward after. I hope they see the value of what we've done so far, but it's not clear to me that they do. And I agree, Tim, we could have played it different along the way to help them see that. So I will be getting back to you of the result of those conversations, and hopefully you can move forward.
Thank you.
All right. But in the interim, I think we should still plan to meet next Monday. Maybe that could be a time I would suggest for the 2-on-2 session or whatever. But I think we should just hold that space for now, since it is a regular meeting time. And if for whatever reason there's nothing to talk about, we can just cancel the meeting.
Can we think about a later time too? Is that something to think about? I know that's come up a couple of times.
It's fine with me. I just need to leave here 6:30 to get over to the town community room at 7 for a select board meeting. So, but I'm not sure if it's going to change for us who's
Right.
attending.
Okay.
Okay.
Going forward, if you're going to have a committee, considering online evening hours will allow you to pick up people that
Right.
just aren't going to be available at current hours. And if you got a job,
Yep,
it's
that's
real
good
hard to fit into.
Well,
this.
if the board still wants a committee, then that's what we should think about, of how to grow it and when to do it, meet. Okay. Well, I appreciate all your time and hearing the concerns, because we have to say them to be able to move on. But I will be in touch with you guys as soon as I can. All
Okay,
right.
thanks, Dave.
Thank
Thanks, Dave.
you.
Sounds good.
All right.